and we have to establish like who's going to take the pressure off him to allow him to free up himself. He doesn't really have like a go-to, and I mean, mind you, it's year 3. He's got a lot of time. We know where he's most effective. In that mid-range, just outside restricted area. I do feel sometimes he does kind of settle for the 3. I don't know. Like, where do you guys sit with that? Do you think that Scotty maybe needs to figure out where his sweet spot is at year 3? That's for either of you guys.
I mean, yeah. Like that'd be a great thing for him to find his identity on the offensive end, and like what are his 2, 3, 4 moves that he rolls with, and what are his counters. And you don't just need one counter out of those moves; you need 2, 3, 4. It's just like an action, right? Like teams have a base action that they use, but there's 3, 4 other layers that they're hoping to incorporate as the defense responds to it, and then they go to this or that, A, B, C, D, whatever. Right? He also needs that too. I think, I mean, as you guys were talking, like I find that with Scotty, once he's able to grab the ball in transition and just get downhill, get down the court, I think it does help him be more aggressive in games. If he's not doing that, if he's off the ball, especially early in games, then he gets a little bit complacent. He kind of loses what he's looking for. Even we're just seeing it right now, right? Like if you want him with the ball, heading down the court. Like that's just it's so good for him. It's so good for the team. He immediately is probably a mismatch for anyone that is that's guarding him. And then he has such like that vision passing that I mentioned. Like he sees everything. It's why he's way beyond his years in terms of his passing ability.
Right.
He's going to find the open man.
Yeah.
Right. And just you got to lock into his aggression. He has to do this as well. But that he has to unlock that, and he has to make that some of his core values on the offensive end is to like be in the paint, live there to some degree. I've always found like Pascal Siakam that he was a little bit too aggressive. He wanted to live in the paint. While I'm like, you have this like beautiful mid-range that you just don't really use as much, but he's just trying to get, right into the front of the rim. Like maybe it's okay if you don't get right there, but just like use some of your secondary moves. Anyways, Scotty, I think he could benefit from being a little bit tunnel vision in terms of getting to the rim because he is a problem. He's powerful.
Yeah. No, and I was just...
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to tack on because you mentioned in transition. The Raptors, I saw a stat the last game. I didn't know this. We were the tied for number 1 in the league in fast break points. I didn't know that. That was a crazy stat. And RJ apparently is 6th in the league, so we'll say top 10 in the league in fast break points. So which is kind of encouraging because if we already have a system that's already in place where we are running, and he's along with RJ, who's clearly, you mentioned tunnel vision. Sorry, that's the definition of tunnel vision right there. So maybe he can pick up something off of RJ, who is a more experienced player.
Sure,
right.
You got it.
No, I was just gonna say like the whole that idea as well, just realizing his mismatches. I mean, there was a game against the Knicks. This was earlier in the season where he had DiVincenzo on him, and then Josh Hart as well. He's a lot bigger than those guys, a lot stronger. I mean, those guys are good defenders, but still, like I feel like he could have taken advantage of certain times where he was passing the ball off. But that was just that game in specific where I felt after a certain point where it was like, okay, Scotty, you got to do something here, show me something different, be aggressive and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's again, like it's going to come with time, with him just getting more reps in as the guy. Right. So we'll see that. Just to move on to Grady here. So just Grady, this is just the sample of the last 5 games, but his numbers have been going up even the last 7 or 8 games. But 20 minutes per game, it's a big jump from when he was averaging the beginning of the season, where I think it was just 10 or 11 minutes a game, 10.2 points per game. So that's a lot better. And then just his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage have gone up, and especially the 3-point it's something that obviously Raptors fans have been waiting for and are finally getting a glimpse of it. What do you think about Grady? What do you think the difference was from the beginning of the season and now? And then just also, if you want to comment as well, do you see him starting by the end of the season, or even before that.
I mean, that conditioning stint did something for him. Whatever they did there, it definitely changed how he's functioning within NBA games and even like G League games. I think just whatever it was, whether it was his conditioning, like actual like his cardio, whether it was a bit of strength training, finding his legs. Obviously, like the NBA game is so much faster than what he dealt with in college, and so there was going to be an adjustment period there. It doesn't feel like he's slingshotting as much with his shot. It feels like there's a bit more of a rhythm to it, a bit more arc, obviously. So that probably helps. But what exactly it is, I mean, it's something with that conditioning stand. Like, and he got into the lab and during the season, and it was a great idea to do that. You can see what opens up when Grady Dick is on the court. All right. This was their idea when they brought him in. Like, we can quibble with should they have taken Keontae George or whoever, and there's every reason to believe that maybe they should have, right? But ultimately, like you're hoping that the ceiling of a Grady Dick is something like where he is the play, where it's a JJ Redick, it's a Kyle Korver. He has like this movement shooting ability that just attracts defense and bends them in his own way, and it creates opportunities for himself, but also his teammates too. Like that's what we're hoping Grady gets to, and this last stretch has been encouraging in that sense. With the question of should he start or not, I don't think it's the right message to send to Gary Trent Jr. or even to like other players, your team itself, to make a decision like that, because if you're not going to keep Gary, then you could have just traded him at the deadline. And you could have gone that route. You could have made this plan. Obviously, you already traded Pascal. You already traded OG when you got to the deadline. So then why are you keeping Gary Trent Jr. around to play off your bench, right? I think it's a weird thing to do. And also, like, let Grady just like go into, like, we don't have to keep on pushing him as much as maybe we want to. He's in a bit of a groove here. Let him be in his groove. It's his rookie season. And then,
Right.
during the offseason, you can make your choices. But I just want to keep on seeing him. Like, his fundamentals, offensively, defensively, they're way beyond his years. He's fundamentally a sound player. Notice how every single time he gets the ball on offense, he never holds it, ever. Right? It's a rip through. It's a high sweep, low sweep. He's faking. He's pass faking. He's shot faking. Whatever it is, he's never just sitting there with the ball, and that's a strong quality for someone at his age to already be doing that. And yeah, obviously we want to see the ball go in. There's a whole whack of actions if they can run for Grady as a shooter with his ability, but we'll have to see where that goes. But I think we shouldn't rush Grady. We've seen some great progress already this season, and if he continues to be this version of him throughout the rest of this current year, I'm cool with that.
Right. What are your thoughts there, Fahim?
I kind of feel like I need to say that I didn't watch Grady in college at all. So everything I was getting from like information of people telling me the type of player he was. So when he came to the team, I wasn't one of those who, when he struggled early, I wasn't one of those who was down on him. But he looked like a deer with headlights. He did not look like he was ready. I did understand that, the NBA 3-point line and the college 3-point line is a little bit different, a little bit of adjusting. So that's fine. What I found most interesting.
Sorry, I think you muted yourself.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry.
What I found most interesting is just his leap that he's made. If you look at him at the start of the season to where he is now, he's a completely different player. Like, I'm talking just even with the confidence. You mentioned it, I mean, in regards to his ability just to pass the ball, and his ball IQ is much higher than actually I gave it credit for. But I do want to ask. So you mentioned something about Gary Trent. So I agree with the logic of what you're saying, but I think that if you took him off the Raptors and he went to another team, I'm just very questionable right now if he's a starter on a lot of NBA teams now. So maybe I'll throw that to you, Amit. Do you think he is outside of the Raptors? If he went to, and I know depending on what team, I just kind of see him as a bench player, like an elite bench player. I don't really see him so much as a starter. Now that could just be me. I wanted to see where you're at.
Yeah, I think I hear exactly what you're saying. I think it goes back to last off season when they decided not to trade him, and I'm sure the reason why he opted in was because the market wasn't there for him,
Hmm.
right? And so I look at this stretch since the major trades the Raptors have made. It's an opportunity for him to show, his value as an NBA player, and they could have moved off of him earlier on, and it just feels like poor business to make this decision. But 100%, I hear what you're saying. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, right? And unless he's mailing it in on defense, if he goes through a major cold streak where it's just like, okay, this guy, like he's just, it's not happening for him, then okay, make your move. But I think you have to give him a bit of rope. And maybe it's like, maybe I'm being a little bit too nice. Like it's NBA, right? Like it's a business. Like I get it. I'm also the same person that thinks that Chris Boucher should be playing right now because I think it helps build winning culture, a winning identity when you let the best players play. If you're trying to win games, which from all accounts, I do believe they're trying to win.
Right.
They're trying to find themselves, right? We're talking about chemistry, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then you should let the best players play, right? And you don't have a lot of depth, anyways, at power forward, and just let it, kind of let the pieces go where they go, and make some players a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that they're not getting minutes. This is a
Right.
standard that you have to play at. And if Chris is
Yeah.
meeting it or exceeding it, then so be it. That's the
Hmm.
Raptor identity I know,
Hmm.
right?
Right. Right.
And we can have our issues with Nick Nurse, but it was firm. He drew the line in the sand. And if you didn't cross it with the other guys, you weren't playing. And I
Right.
agree with that to an extent. I
Yeah.
think that means something.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I just, with Gary, just the ups and downs is just, for me. I mean, I'm not hating on Gary at all. I mean, he's been doing awesome since starting. But just the inconsistencies, I think, is just the issue there. I'm not sure, like you said, we don't want to put too much pressure on Grady, because if he starts doing that too, where there's inconsistencies in his game, people are going to start criticizing it. And right now, people are liking the fact that he's coming off the bench. So I do like him coming off the bench for the majority of the second half of this season. But I would like to see him maybe the last, say, 7 games or something like that, where he does start, especially if the Raptors are nowhere near the play-in or trying to get there. And I don't think Gary Trent, in that sense, will have an issue necessarily. He might have an understanding as well that we're trying to see what we have, right? And like you said, it is a business at the end of the day. I mean, the coach has to make a decision of who fits better and how, right? And the personnel that's going to be around for longer, right? Because we do
Yeah.
know, for at least what we think, we know that the core is going to stick around, right? The IQ,
Yeah.
RJ, Scotty, and Grady, right? We don't know where everybody else is going to be. There were huge moves so far.
Mhm.
So, Schroeder was gone, and I was surprised by that. That was more surprising to me, because we were talking about Bruce Brown as well
Mhm.
getting traded. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I like Grady's. His game is really getting a lot better, and I like his defensive end as well. Like, he's not just an offensive player; he's actually he's hustling on defense too. He's trying to be better. He's trying to take charges. He's learning that as well, when to take them and
He
things like
leads the
that.
team in charges drawn. Did you know
Does he?
that?
Okay,
Hmm.
perfect. So it just,
That's not a compliment, but I mean, it is, but it's
It
not.
is that.
right, right. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, I think the
Yeah.
fact that he's there on defense, he's hustling, and he's trying to help the team, and on that end as well, showing that he belongs on the court. I think that's what he's trying to show, right? That he belongs on the
Mhm.
court, and he probably wants to get that starting position eventually, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
However,
think,
another way to
yeah,
look at it
yeah,
is, in that starting lineup, there are a lot of mouths to feed, right?
right,
So if he's getting these minutes with some of these bench units, now he's actually able, like they can run some actions for him. And
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that in terms of, leaders and off-ball screens, the order is Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Laurie Markkinen, Michael Porter Jr., Paul George. That's top 5 in off-ball screens. That's where Grady has to get to.
right,
Like you
right,
create your shot through off-ball screens. Like Buddy Hield, you got to Buddy Hield, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. They weave, bob, slime their way through
yeah,
all these screens,
that's
and then
true,
they find a way to get to the 3-point line, and they pull up and they hit them. That's
Mhm.
another
right,
thing. He has to get to that point. That is the peak of what Grady Dick is going to be in the
Mhm.
NBA when he's
Mhm.
has that kind of gravity. He's able to hit those kind of shots. Like that's what I saw from Kyle Korver, Steph Curry, JJ Redick, all these amazing shooters that we've seen over the years in the NBA. That's what they were able to do, and that's what he has to get to. That's going to make eventually what the final version of him, the best version. That's it right there.
I always had a player comp for him. Like I said, I didn't watch him in college, so everything was just from the offseason coming in. I saw like Gordon Hayward, and that's a compliment. Like when I say Gordon Hayward, people think of like present day Gordon Hayward. I'm speaking like the Utah All-Star.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're
like,
saying. Yep.
Yeah, totally. I just want to get real quick on when we were talking about Gary, and you were mentioning Al about it's a business. I do think he's been most business-like. To think that whenever he's been, relegated to the bench, he was always a professional, and he's been in, and he seems like since his time as a Raptor has been just uncertainty, and it just seems like here we are, like how many years later, and he's still, he hasn't done anything bad to the organization. Like even like everything is just good considering the situation. If he wasn't the kind of person maybe he was, things could have went sour, I think. And so I really have a lot of respect for Gary Trent Jr., regardless of what happens, whether he stays or goes, just for being, the professional that he's been. So.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, you mentioned Chris Boucher and why not playing him. So that leads to the last thing that I wanted to talk about is a 10-man rotation. I mean, there's a lot of, there's guys on the team that, might not see some minutes, some games in here and there. Obviously now with Kelly Olynyk and Oche, they obviously are going to get more minutes. The minutes of Jonte Porter have gone down a little bit. Jordan Nwora, Chris Boucher, right? And so those are the kind of the guys, like, do they fit in? And like I have like 13 guys here on this thing. That we got McDaniels on there. Bruce Brown, Bruce Brown obviously is going to play. He's going to have his rotation, but where do we see Nwora, Jonte Porter, McDaniels, Boucher? Like, what do they even fit in?
Yeah, man, it's tough, and I do got to get going in a few minutes here, but it is extremely tough. Like we can talk about, Chris Boucher should be in there, but that means someone else isn't, and there's a lot of players that they want to see, and not even just mentioning their Justice Winslow, Mohamedou Gay. The reason why they signed those guys is because they were under the minimum roster spots, and so they had to make a move. And whatever they decide to do, those are two players that you want to see. Whoever's in those positions, you want to see them. They're hoping to see something from those guys, right? And so that is technically probably a rotation spot. And I'm not sure how it all goes, right? Like I really, honestly, I don't know. But I know that if you want to win games, this is probably the way to go. And how it balances out, like it's hard to play more than 10 players in a game unless you get like really funky with it. Like RJ's playing 20 minutes or something like that. It's a hard thing to manage.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And like at Oche, I think you need to see more minutes from him. His last game against the Pacers, he didn't play much at all. He didn't get his second shift, and I don't really know why he didn't get it, but he didn't. So anyways, it's a hard thing to figure out. I think going off that Pacers game, the starters, they play, and then it's Bruce Brown, Grady Dick, Kelly Olynyk, Oche, and it could be Chris Boucher's in there too. That's 10 players, right?
Right. Yeah.
Today I'm saying that, but I think like you kind of know what you have with Jonte Porter to a degree,
right?
And it's not in a bad way too. I think he's kind of proven himself. Like he's a stretch big, and continues to improve. He's going to have some value to your squad. He's got some passing chops. I like his connective passing ability. He reads things pretty well. So I'm okay with him being part of the team next season. And then outside of that, like I think you got to find some minutes for a lot of people. Jordan Nwora, you got to learn more about him. Like I'm going through spinning my wheels here because I don't really know what the answer is, honestly. You're hoping that things kind of solve themselves to a degree. I mean, it's a long season, so there's still things that have to happen. And you kind of go from there. But the 10 players I mentioned before, I think that's the route I'm going, at least like for the Brooklyn Nets game coming up on Thursday.
Right. Well, I was just talking about spinning it. We could just spin it right there and see where where what we got. But yeah, no, Fahim, what are your
No,
thoughts on that?
I'm with what he said. Everything sounds good. I like Jordan Moore a lot. It's weird. He had a good run of the first week, and then after
Right.
that, I guess maybe because of new acquisitions, he just hasn't played. So I just want to see more of what I thought we could be getting.
Right.
But outside of that, yeah, it is a toss up. I really don't know. You mentioned Winslow. We picked him up. Um, was that just to fill roster spot, like, or did you?
Kinda, yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. I
like,
mean, it's rewarding a player for
yeah,
playing pretty well at the G League level,
right.
and I'm pretty sure like it's his 10 days expired, I think,
Okay.
and so they would have to renew it. And the G League season's ending pretty soon too, and the Raptors or the 905, like they're not making the playoffs. They had a
Mhm.
terrible year,
Right.
so it would kind of be like that's where things are for Justice Winslow, Mohamed Gay, obviously other players like Javon from Liberty, Marquise Noel. They can be with the big club because they're on the two ways. But some of these other guys, like I don't know what they're going to end up doing. It might just be they're kind of done with the Raptors. But Justice Winslow is a person I would like to see if we're not, you know, tanking, if we're not rebuilding, we're retooling. Then I mean, who knows? Like he's a pretty good player at when he's healthy and all that kind of stuff. And when I spoke to him like in November, was it? He said that all I need is just a chance and to stay healthy, and I'll be back in the NBA. Essentially, paraphrasing.
Mhm.
And I would like to see him get that opportunity, but I don't know if it's going to work out with the Toronto Raptors. He might just need someone to take a chance on him. So, yeah. But guys, I got to get going here. It
Mhm.
was very fun talking to
Yeah,
you.
you come through. Yeah.
Appreciate you
Good.
having me on.
Yeah,
Much
of course.
Appreciate you.
appreciated. All right. Have yourself a
Yeah.
good night.
All
All
right,
right.
you
Have
too,
a good
man.
night. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Hey, Fahim. So that was we actually end up spending like 50 minutes there. He came in a little late, but yeah, it was good.
Wow.
Good conversation. Yeah, would you think?
Yeah. I apologize for
No,
jumping
no,
the
it's
gun
all
with
right,
the
man.
Grady part. I did.
No, no, that's all right.
I remember I saw it on the screen, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you're following a format. So when I saw it, I was just like,
Right.
oh, I just started talking about it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I
yeah,
have all these. I had all these like talking points. I thought I'd be a little bit more organized, just so that I
no, for
wanted to share
sure.
that with him. He also wanted to know where we were going with the conversation and stuff. So,
Right, right.
just to
Yeah,
give
no,
him an
no.
idea, that's why I created this. But
Right, yeah, yeah. So you
yeah,
had it up. Can you pull it back up again for a second?
yeah. So
Talking
this
points.
is so do you see this? So this is the homepage, and then we had these points
There
that
we
we
go.
wanted
That's
to
what it
talk
was.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The thoughts on Grady. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, 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 yeah. No worries.
yeah. That was a good combo. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
He had a lot. He had a lot to offer.